little bit better informed now than I was about a year ago when I can't remember exactly why, but I saw that Priceline Group was worth something like $75 billion or $65 billion. And frankly, I was shocked because I said, well, I remember Priceline. That was the company that hired William Shatner to do TV advertising, name your price. It was Web 1.0, a big sensation. And then I hadn't heard a thing about it since then. So first of all, how could I have been so ignorant? And what's been the story over all these years?
Well, I really can't know much about your ignorance.
I know.
Got to get out more.
Yeah.
That's a great question. And I'm asked it a lot, and not dissimilar the way you just said it. And what comes to mind is a couple things. One is that Nassim Taleb bit about history is kind of narrative fallacy, that you make up a story to explain what happened.
Yeah.
That's one. The other thing is about the movie Rashomon. Kurosawa's great thing where four people see the same thing and they all have a different opinion of what happened. And I was there, so I saw this, and I describe it sometimes how it happened. Other people have different opinions. I just want to tell you that what I say is the actual truth and the other people aren't wrong. So the first thing is, I think we are fairly lucky in terms of hitting a point in time when there is a technology inflection, people coming online to buy things, and we had great people who had great business models, and it all came together one. The second thing that I think may have been a thing is that we went worldwide through our acquisitions. You know, we bought, you mentioned Active and Booking, but you didn't mention Agoda, which we bought 2 years later, based in Bangkok. And as we all know, and we just heard it a little while ago about the incredible growth of all types of e-commerce in China. So we were fortunate in that way. And the third thing I would say, and this is really just so much of life, there's just a bit of serendipity that really makes the difference between success and failure. And I am going to be the absolute biggest proponent of that. Yes, you have to work really hard. Yes, you have to be smart. Yes, you have to do all the right things, but that just gets you to the starting gate. And we were very fortunate that some people in our industry made some mistakes, and we got lucky with some of the things that we thought we should do. And that's the way it came out.
So let's go back for a moment. This may be the first time in Brainstorm Tech history that an executive responsible for a $135 million acquisition that has turned into a $95 billion market cap. And I know that's a little bit of an exaggeration because Booking.com is not the only thing you bought. But the first time anyone would ever have said that that was serendipitous or lucky on stage.
Well, I think, first of all, what you've just done is insulted the 5 other major subsidiaries of our company, Open Table, Rental Car,
I'm ignorant and insulting in one interview.
This is not nice.
No, please, say the list again. I interrupted you.
Okay, so Priceline.com, you knew that one.
Yeah.
Open Table, I hope you use it. Kayak, perhaps you
use Open Table all the time.
Rentalcars.com, you need to rent a car, and other types of ground transportation, and of course, the last one being Agoda out in Asia. Now, what was your question?
My question is, go back to, first of all, what became of the Name Your Price product? That was the company, right? And remind us what year that was.
Okay, so the company was started in 1997. I joined in 2000. I had formerly been and I'm not a self-described guru. I worked in M&A. It says, please, why do you think I'm not there anymore? And I worked for a guy named Barton Biggs, who was a Wall Street legend. I was a head trader there. And the internet was so exciting in 1999. I thought, I want to go do that and go back to doing deals. And I waited until I got my bonus check from Morgan Stanley in February of 2000. And I went over, I'm going to join the internet world, which is 2 weeks before the internet busted, which proves that it was good to leave trading, because clearly I have absolutely no ability to choose when one should buy or not buy. And I started out in corporate development there, and 17 years of working there, and they gave me the job in January.
But what became of, how much of that, what's that product look like today?
So it's still there. Express Deals is the way to go. That Priceline.com, and you want to get a deal, Priceline.com is there you want to get a deal. That's where to go. It's still there. It's a very small part of the business now. The overwhelming majority of the business is coming from Booking.com first, and then all the other ones are also doing a nice bit of business too. Here's a good thing about this is you have to be willing to change. I mean, when we started out and went public in 1999, we had a market cap a couple of weeks after the IPO of $30 billion, which back then in 1999, that was real money. And I joined a little way. I joined in February of the following year, 2000, and by December, we were down to just a couple of $100 million.
Couple of $100 million.
Couple hundred million, 99 point whatever % decline in market cap value. And the fact is, over time, we realized that, listen, name your own price, good product and all that, but lots of people like to buy things the other way. And Booking.com proves that the way to buy things is much better if you disclose the price, had the most efficient way to do it, had the biggest breadth of selection, all those things. Yes, for a certain niche, people like the name your own price product, but that's tiny. Booking.com is the largest online travel player in the world by far.
Talk about your major markets. I mean, what are they?
It's called the world, Earth.
Well, but this little market called the United States is not a particularly big market for Booking.com.
So what's fascinating about
But before you talk about so what are the drivers, and then we'll talk about the U.S.
Well, the fascinating thing about us, so we are by far the largest online travel company in the world, but we're not largest in the biggest markets. So U.S., we're not number one in the U.S. China, we're not number one in China. Japan, we're not number one in Japan. So one of the things people say, well, that's not good. And I say, are you kidding me? That's a growth opportunity.
And your big markets are what? Europe? All the countries of Europe, are some better than others?
Well, we don't go in and talk about what individual markets are or not, but clearly Booking.com started in Europe, so that is the biggest area where we started from. But our goal, our mission, is to help people experience the world. When we say people, we mean all people, every single place. We're in 220, you can get a hotel in 225 countries and territories. 225, that's more than countries in the UN. Because we count territories that get a separate
Understood.
description.
Talk about your U.S. aspirations for Booking.com.
Well, it's the same for everything, is growth and profit. Clearly, we believe that we need to do a great job of making people, because some people may not know about Booking.com. We want to make sure people know about it, because we think the product is great. And one of the areas we're really building on right now is the whole issue of homes, apartments, villas. People who they prefer, instead of staying in a regular hotel, they may want to go to the beach, they may want to get a home, urban city, they may want to get an apartment. That's an area that we've been building upon for the last few years, and we want to make sure that people in the U.S. are aware that we have that problem. We have over 700,000 properties like that around the world. And we believe that one of the things we have to make sure is that people in the U.S., because a lot of U.S. people don't know about it, they think I need a home somewhere, and they come up with this other name.
Yeah, I was going to say, what you were describing there reminds me of a Silicon Valley startup I've heard of called Airbnb.
I must be ignorant about that.
Yeah, touche.
Yeah. No, look, Brian's done an incredibly great job of trailblazing that thing, and we all know that it's easier if somebody's already cut a path, and we thank him for that.
But back to the heart and soul business, though, for a second. But Booking.com, I mean, there are other products in the United States that do have bigger market share that are straight, get a hotel, get airfare, get a car, which is what Booking.com does in most of the rest of the world.
Rental cars for rental cars, and Booking.com for hotels.
Thank you. Yep. So what's your strategy against them? I mean, I'm thinking of Expedia, their competitors.
Yeah. So the strategy has been fairly consistent all along, and that is using technology, making sure that using that technology, you being the traveling public, has the best way, the easiest ways, the fastest way, the largest selection, the lowest price. And if anything goes wrong, and this is incredibly important because things go wrong, maybe you've seen some things in the news about things happen, maybe you're on an airline and they throw you out or something like that. We want to make sure you recognize that we have 24/7 customer service that backs up our travelers, and we do it in 43 languages, 24/7. See, that's one of the things we bring to the table that our suppliers, that's one of the things that they're getting from us, is that we will handle that customer service issue. You got a person who's in, I don't know, let's say, easy one, China, going to Europe, right? And they have some sort of problem with their booking in France. Well, the Chinese individual doesn't speak French, but they speak Chinese, and we have a huge, huge customer service center in China that will handle that. That's a thing that brings benefit to the supplier, brings benefit to the traveler, and that's one of the reasons in our little story about why we've been successful.
Talk about your China strategy specifically, if you would. I know you made an investment, so what's the game plan there? And tell everybody about that investment.
Yeah, well, so you heard just a little while ago about how big China is, and unless you've been traveling to China, it's just hard to really get a grip on how fast and how big and how innovative things are going there. I first went to China in 1985, and back then it was all bicycles, but they owned them. And then over time, they all got rid of their bicycles, and they got everyone to have a car, and the cars were clogged everywhere. And now you got clogged cars and clogged bicycles all over the place. The interesting thing, though, is for us is it's not easy when you're not Chinese to do well there. But I think we're doing okay. We have a three-pronged strategy. We have the issue, and this is probably the easiest one, is we have a huge network of customers, travelers who want to go to China. We help provide them with a Chinese hotel. Then the other thing, which is also we're doing well in, and this is a tremendous growth factor for everybody who's in this industry, is the outbound. The number of Chinese going outbound is just unbelievable. And I was in Leadville yesterday. I see my daughter there, and I had a little time before I was going to see her. I went to the little visitor center there. It's a little shack. I go in there. There were 3 people there from China in Leadville, asking, where should we see here? It was amazing. And then, so we're absolutely, that for us is great because of our network of the number, we have 1.3 million properties worldwide total. That's both the non-hotels and the hotels. So we have that for the Chinese traveler. But wait, even more, we have the issue, and this is the hardest one, and this is the internal one, the domestic one. It's China for China. Because what you're doing is you're competing against the big players inside China. Not as easy, but we think we're making progress.
And the investment that you made?
We made an investment in C-Trip, which is the largest travel player in China. We've had a great relationship with them. I've known them for over 10 years. Oh, gosh, so 12 years now, a dozen years I've known the senior people there. And it's growing. We work cooperatively, but we're also competitors. And that's not unheard of in China. There's a lot of that going on.
We would love for you to come to the Fortune Global Forum in Guangzhou in December because everything you're talking about is going to be very germane to that conference. I want to run through some numbers really quickly. Your revenues last year were a little bit over $11 billion. Your EBITDA was a little over $4 billion. I said earlier your market cap is $95 billion. You know off the top of your head what some of the other companies we've talked about are worth. Could you share that with everybody? Expedia, Airbnb?
Well, I think it's better for you to say that I don't want to insult anybody.
I think it's 23 billion Expedia. 23 billion. I don't remember what Airbnb's last value was.
Well, I think they'll have about 30 billion.
30. So you're a lot bigger than them. Talk about, Glenn, what your criteria for acquisitions are now. What does the Priceline Group want now?
Well, as you may know, we don't talk about what we're going to buy next. But, and this is, I think it's a good thing to say to people who are interested in technology acquisitions. And technology is, IP is great. But the fact is, everything changes so rapidly. So along with the IP, you got to be making sure you're getting the people, the great people with that IP when you're doing something in technology acquisition. And because I was an M&A banker for some time, one of the things I recognized fairly quickly is how many deals go wrong, go bad. And you don't hear about them as much because everybody likes to make on the headlines or magazines about these great deals and how great and wonderful it is. But the fact is, a lot of data shows it's really hard to do that. So the first thing in our criteria is the people. We have to make sure that we're comfortable with the people, that they will fit in our culture, because a cultural conflict is one of the biggest reasons M&A transactions fail. The other thing that we really want to make sure is these people are going to add something to the business already, that's not already with us. Because the fact is, just to bring in somebody who's doing what we're already doing and trying to integrate that, that hasn't been our style. Our style has always been the big deals that we've done, the Booking.coms and the active hotels, all those ones that we've done. We made sure that the people who were the founders had the incentive and the structure that would enable them to stay doing what they had been doing, only do it better and give them more resources. Because the truth of the matter, you spent all this money to buy these companies, and then what? Then you're going to let them go? So much of the value was in them.
So you're a US-based company that we now all understand is a collection of multiple brands, and the parent company is a name that is associated with a bygone product, have a largely bygone product. I anticipate your corrections now.
It's already there.
Because we know each other so well,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you considered, and would you consider, changing the name Priceline? the corporate name, Priceline?
Well, one of the things we absolutely believe in is experimenting and being willing to change. You know, we used to have name your own price for the airline product. That was our first big product, made of good money back in the day. We killed that. We killed sacred cows. I have no problem doing that. We'll just, done, gone, not good use resource. So name change. You know, maybe, don't think about it. And if we do it though, don't want you taking credit for it. Maybe we thought of that. And we'll think about that.
I'm going to interpret that answer as this is something that's under active consideration, because it certainly wasn't my idea.
We consider everything.
No, you don't consider everything. You consider some things more than other things.
Truth of the matter is, you're not the first person who may have mentioned this point.
All right, I'll stick with my observation from a moment ago. I'd like to know your questions, but I know there's somebody in the audience, Mark Mahaney, who has followed Priceline for a long time. Mark, you get the first question as soon as that yellow paddle arrives. And then I see someone back there we'll go to next.
Hey, Glenn, your predecessor was the CEO for, I think, a decade. You've been there for 6 or 7 months. I know you're pretty long-term oriented. When we look back 5 years, what's going to have been Glenn Fogel's major influence on Priceline? Like, how is your vision different than what your predecessor's was? You're funnier than your predecessor. But is there a different corporate vision?
First, I just want to make a point to everybody that Mark was at Morgan Stanley when I was at Morgan Stanley. And when I took the job in 2000, I asked him, I said to him, I called up Mary, and I said, Mary, should I go to, what about Priceline?
Mary Meeker, you're talking about.
Exactly. And he was working for her. She says, oh, Mark knows. And I said, Mark, what do you think? And Mark said, yeah, it's a great company. Maybe a little volatile. True story. True story. Okay, so 5 years from now, what I'd like people to look, at that point and say that we've been able to move the Priceline Group into something that is created, instead of the 6 brands that you just mentioned, the way I want to come up with something that is a holistic service and system so that when people are going to travel, it's a lot easier than it is now. Now, we all know it's a lot easier now than it was 20 years ago. 10 years ago, the fact that you pick up a phone and you can get a car, the fact that you can go on the Alexa, you can go to Alexa now. Kayak just announced the other day that you can book a hotel on Alexa by just speaking into it, which is great. I don't know how many we have so far, but it's a great thing showing technology. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I want people to do is make sure that it's easier in the future. And I'll give you some examples. How many people have gone to Las Vegas to check into a hotel there? In the line, it looks like, you're at some terrible rush thing at the security desk at JFK. It's crazy. Because you already gave me your name. You already gave me a credit card. So what are they doing there? They're typing. What are they typing? I have no idea what they're doing back there. I once said that to a hotelier. And he says, well, we have to give you the key. I said, why is that? I got this phone. Yeah. I got a lock at my home. My phone works the lock at home. Why can't you do that? Some hotels are getting there. And that's one of the simplest examples. But I want things to be frictionless. I want things to be easy. I want it so people don't have to think so much about the process. I want them to think about the trip.
Does that vision suggest that you want to integrate the various brands and properties more closely together than they are now, or not necessarily?
Well, look, you're talking, I think, more structural corporate development. You can do that. You cannot. That's the point.
Product sharing is what you're suggesting.
I'm talking regardless of how you do. Forget about the legal. The point is that and Krista Quarles here, who's the CEO of Open Table, she's right here in the room.
In front. Uh-huh.
What I want, and the reason we did Open Table, is that when the very wealthy person comes to Aspen and they reserve that expensive hotel, a little Nell, like they're spending a fortune, and we know they did that, and I want to make sure they get great recommendations for restaurants, that the restaurateur is willing to offer up discounts because they know you buy expensive red wines.
But you're not doing it now, is that?
It's going to take time.
Yep. Okay. Next question. Where is it? Right there, please. Yes.
Hey, I'm RJ Jain. I'm the founder and CEO of Price.com. I know the name sounds very similar. A lot of people actually come to Priceline, and they come to Price.com and they're searching for Priceline as well. So my question is, to me, Priceline really stood out when it introduced the name your price option. While it still exists, it seemed that this feature has been downplayed in recent years. Can you speak to the evolution of this feature and what type of signature offering you think will define Priceline in the future?
Could you repeat that?
Can you speak to the development of the Priceline product and what's the future for that? Fair? And I have to ask you to be brief in your answer.
We'll continue to operate and develop it and continue it going as long as it's providing the right return. That's what the job that I've in is correct resource allocation of resources.
And that's so interesting. So the takeaway is it may be tiny, it may not be what it once was, but it's good enough that you haven't killed it because you would have.
The fact is we killed something we killed the name your own price for airlines, which was the most glorious thing that we can. Can you imagine Coca-Cola going out and saying, you know, that regular Coke, nobody likes it. Let's come up with a new, oh, they did that. Never mind.
Glenn, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you
really
so much.
Appreciate it. Okay.